I call the Honourable Ruth Dyson.
Thank you very much, Mr Speaker. I want to commend the member who's just resumed his seat for 10 minutes of serious repetition of the National Party lines. That was extraordinarily well repeated, Mr Williams. I know that he's in the competition to replace the Honourable Lockwood Smith when he takes his vacation, when we're joined in the House by, I'm sure, what will soon be after he returns, the Honourable Aaron Gilmore, who's escalating rapidly in the stakes in the National Party. Mr Speaker, a lot of the time the National Party have been taking the calls. They've been crowing that Labour members are voting against the budget, and that means we're voting against the asset sales program. Well, I just want to confirm that, Mr Speaker. Labour is voting against the budget, and we are voting against the asset sale program. Just in case anyone in the country is in any doubt, Labour does not support National's asset sale program. Mr Speaker, tragically, that's about all that's in the budget, and that's why it's quite correctly being described as a zero budget. At the end of last week, this House went into urgency to discuss the critical measures that were contained within the budget. So what did the House do? We passed 3 bits of legislation. The first one, Mr Speaker, rattled upside down the poor young paper boys and paper girls of New Zealand. Turned them upside down, held them by their ankles, shook them until their pocket money came out of their pockets into Bill English's hands. Mr Key described them as small employees. Well, those of us on this side of the House don't call them small employees, we call them children, actually. They're young people in New Zealand, and they earn a tiny little bit of money, and up until the budget last week, they could keep it all. Now they have to pay tax. So that was the first big initiative in the budget. What a great leap forward for New Zealand that was. What a vision from John Key and Bill English that we saw. Let's get the money out of the pockets of the paper boys and the paper girls. Didn't feel very visionary for me. Didn't sound as if the National Party members who spoke during urgency supported it could feel a vision either, but nevertheless that was the first big measure. What was the second? Well, the second big initiative in the budget, again passed under urgency, was to reduce the support for tertiary students. That was the second big, bold initiative, no doubt rammed through Cabinet by Stephen Joyce. I don't know if he shared as much information with his Cabinet colleagues as the Honourable Hikia Parata, but if he did, he'll be in bother later this week as well, because nobody in the Cabinet knew the details of the education budget cuts. I'm not sure the Honourable Hikia Parata knew them, actually, until teachers and parents drew them to her attention. So that was the second big, bold initiative. Let's cut the support for tertiary students. In bad times, the most important investment that a government can make is investing in the skills, the training, the education and the employment of our citizens, so that as we come out of the bad times, we will be better off. But instead, for 4 years in a row, this government has cut back on that. And the third big, bold initiative in this zero budget, what was it, Mr Speaker? I'm sure that everyone in the House remembers the debate from last Friday. Certainly every grey power member around the country remembers the debate and will be reminded, the National Party members, of it. It was to freeze the asset threshold. Not a little tinker, not a minor reduction, a freeze on it, so that instead of the annual $10,000 a year increment in the amount of asset that could be retained by a person going into a rest home or a hospital level care facility, that's now frozen at CPI. So out of the pockets of young people earning a little bit of pocket money, out of the pockets of tertiary students, and out of the dressing gown pockets of rest home residents, the government shook a few miserable dollars and said, that's it, that's our vision. Well, no wonder hundreds and hundreds and hundreds of New Zealanders, good New Zealanders, people we want and need to stay here and contribute to our communities and our nation's future, no wonder those people are saying, forget it. There's nothing here for us. This is a government with no vision, giving us no hope for the future. We're on the next plane out of here. Record numbers of people leaving our shores permanently to go to Australia. Mr. Williamson said judges on our financial management. Well, nothing would give us more pleasure, actually, Mr. Williamson, than doing that, because every year the Prime Minister and the Minister of Finance have overpromised and then failed to deliver. You can get away with it once, but you can't get away with it every year. You can't promise more than you are able to deliver and then be shown to have failed and then try that same trick again. New Zealanders are not foolish. New Zealanders can read the record of this government. Last year, for example, the Prime Minister said we would have 4% growth. 4% growth was what he promised New Zealanders, and now he's projecting just over 2.5% in this year's budget. That's quite a difference. Honourable Maurice Williamson can do the sums, I'm sure, quite easily. The difference between 2.6 and 4, when you're talking about economic growth, is quite a lot. And the difference between misleading and promising is very narrow in the way that the Prime Minister does it. Last year, the Prime Minister said that we would have 170,000 additional jobs, and this year that's been cut in the budget commitment by 16,000. They're not numbers. They're not figures. They're not statistics. Mr. Speaker, they're people. They're people who want and deserve a job. Maurice Williamson has got the audacity to say that people are being paid to do nothing. They don't want a benefit, Mr. Williamson. They want a job. They want a job. And if there was a job on offer, they would take it, as they did in their thousands when we were in government, supporting employers, supporting the export sector, supporting innovation within our business community so that more jobs could be available for the people who currently are stuck on a benefit, with the only choice being available to them to stay on the benefit or leave our country. That is not a vision that I think is good enough for New Zealanders. Last year, the Prime Minister said that real wages would grow. This year, we see it peaking at 1.6 and then declining. So not only are people not able to get jobs in their thousands more than previously, but when they do get a job, their wages don't even keep up with the rate of inflation. Mr. Speaker, New Zealanders and our nation deserve better than what we are being offered. We want leadership. We want leaders with the ability to look at the hard decisions that are confronting our country and engage in a public debate and come up with real solutions, not repose questions, not stick to tired, old, outdated arguments, but come up with real solutions for the future. A surplus in the government accounts is important. Labor maintained it for a long time and was consistently attacked by the National Party for not spending more money. We said we wanted to maintain a surplus for that rainy day, and it came in buckets, and the National Party blew it all. They didn't save any money to invest in New Zealanders. They blew it all on tax cuts for the highest income earners, that people that did not need that additional money, and at the same time putting GST up, which hurts the most vulnerable people in our community. Mr. Speaker, the budget is about choices, it's about decisions, and it's about providing a vision. This government has given us no vision. It's given us a zero budget. The choices they have made is to rattle the money out of the lowest income earners and make them pay tax, stop additional support for tertiary students, and then at the other end of the age scale, rattle the dressing gowns of our most vulnerable senior citizens to get a few extra dollars out of them. They call that a vision. They call that leadership. It is neither. It is a zero budget, and New Zealanders deserve better.
I call the honourable member Maggie Barry.